Hello there, fellow cultists. This is DM Nell, and I am back with another episode of Shadow the Demon Lord Talk. And in today's episode, we are going to do something a little bit different. We're going to depart from the core Shadow the Demon Lord game, and we're going to talk a little bit about a spinoff. Spinoff known as GODLESS. But before we do that, I would like to take a moment and just remind everybody that I do also sell virtual tabletop tokens on the Roll20 marketplace. And so just as a quick and dirty shameless plug, I would like to remind you all that if you need a Shadow the Demon Lord related virtual tabletop token, then you've come to the right place, because I have 7 token sets out here. As you can see, we got the Horned Ogre, we've got Harvester, we've got a Braggart, we've got a Changeling, we've got a Horde Monster, we've got Macra, we've got all kinds of Shadow the Demon Lord related monsters that you can use in your games. If you use a virtual tabletop and need some art, then you come to the right place. So go to Roll20 and check out the various token sets that I have. All right. Now, I do that just because I want to make sure that people are aware of that. I don't need the money. I have a full-time job. I don't beg people for money, and I don't have a Patreon. I don't need any of that stuff. Of course, a little extra spending money is not something I'm going to turn away, but mostly want to ensure that people have all the tools they need to run a fantastic Shadow the Demon Lord game on the virtual tabletop if you are not lucky enough to play in person, like me. All right, so let's talk about GODLESS. So I call this a spinoff. It kind of is, although it has really been out for about as long as Shadow the Demon Lord has been out. But I have to be honest with you, I haven't played this game. Haven't used the rules, and I really haven't paid too much attention to it. However, one of my viewers had asked that I talk about this in a video, and so since I aim to please, this is my video where I just kind of go over the GODLESS supplement that was produced. I think it was published back in 2015 or 2016, maybe. Let's see. Should say, yeah, 2016. So it's been out for 6 years. And like I said, I've never played it. And the reason I've never played it is because I likened it to the Road Warrior. So, you know, the old Mad Max, Road Warrior, Mel Gibson movies from the 80s, or the newer Mad Max Fury Road movie from the recent years. Not with Mel Gibson. So that's kind of what I thought it was. And although I like those movies, it wasn't really a genre that I have been interested in running an RPG in. I dig post-apocalyptic stuff like Gamma World, but not post-apocalyptic stuff like Road Warrior. I guess I like the Gamma World because it's got fantastic elements to it, whereas Road Warrior is mostly grounded in the real world. It's a lot of resource management, and just in a dismal environment, and lots of cars, and souped up cars and motorbikes and stuff like that. Just not my jam. But after I had got the request to do a video on this, I dusted off the supplement and I started reading through it, and I was wrong really to cast it off to the side as a Road Warrior a vehicle to run a Road Warrior type game. It's really more than that. It can be that. Let me just start off by saying it can totally be a Road Warrior game. In fact, there's either an expert or master path in here called the Road Warrior. So clearly this was designed with some Road Warrior elements incorporated into it on purpose. However, this is a Shadow of the Demon Lord game. It's just set in the real world after a cataclysm has reduced the civilization to a series of ruins and a ecological disaster. And so that's the starting point, and then you layer the Shadow of the Demon Lord on top of that. So I think I'm jumping ahead of myself, but basically to set this up, Godless isn't Road Warrior. It's Road Warrior plus Gamma World plus D&D thrown into a cauldron, just kind of shaken up a little bit, and add some beer and your favorite hard liquor, and that's what Godless is. So let's jump right into it, shall we? All right, so the presentation is similar to how it is in Shadow of the Demon Lord, although it has a more modern look to it. Now, I'm not doing a review because I don't do reviews, but just pointing it out that it's formatted, or it's organized, I should say, in a similar fashion, but it definitely has a different look to it. So first, the introduction. So it talks about the setting. So I mentioned earlier that the setting is the real world, and that's exactly what it is. It's the real world, and it's referred to as the world of fire and blood. And it says right here, the world of fire and blood takes place in a darkly twisted version of our own world in the not too distant future. You know this world. There are 7 continents, 4 oceans, stars in the sky, a sun that rises in the east and sets in the west, and a moon, albeit shattered. There are some striking differences too. Civilization has died, and the old nation states are no more, having been replaced by tiny baronies and duchies ruled by tyrannical warlords. The ruined environments caused the global population to sharply decline until only a fraction of its original number remained. A constant struggle to survive stripped away the humanity of those left, leaving them broken and unhinged. Finally, the incredible upheaval attracted the Demon Lord's attention. As the boundaries within the void weaken and fracture, strange energies have spread across the world. Excuse me. Across the world, transforming ordinary creatures into monsters and offering new and terrible power to those with the minds and resolve to master it. All right, so it's just like I said. It is the Road Warrior, or your favorite post-apocalyptic setting that's real world based, and then you throw in Shadow of the Demon Lord. So that adds the fantastic element to it, which attracts my attention because that's the part I like, right? I don't dig real world apocalypse stuff. I mean, it's okay to watch a movie or read in a book, but to play in an RPG, I need a fantastic element, and this brings it. All right, so it goes on to talk about, in the introduction, at a high level, different stuff. It talks about the basics. So it talks about the basics include the environment is devastated, resources are scarce, everyone is insane. Not literally everyone is insane, but obviously civilization has crashed. It's every man for himself, so sanity kind of takes a back seat. Nothing is as it seems. Relics linger from the old world. People hold strange beliefs. Terrible things walk the world, and the Shadow of the Demon Lord has fallen. So these are the core conceits of the setting. So I would actually add, if you wanted to, add an element of Numenera in here. Relics from the past still lingering in the current environment. It kind of fits. Although, Numenera is far future, like a billion years in the future. But, this is actually, I place the time frame for this probably, I would say that the cataclysm that it talks about, I would say happened probably anywhere between 25 to 50 years in the future from today. So I would say somewhere in the 2050s to 2070s is when the cataclysm occurred. And then this game, the actual campaign could start maybe, 50 to 100 years after that. So you've got a generation or two that has grown up in this wasteland, and you have enough time there for mutations to have built up a population of mutants and the various races that are explained in the book. All right, so those are the basics of the game. So the first chapter talks about characters. So you've got it starts off with stories. So characters in the world of Fire and Blood have endured much hardship and struggle before the game even begins. The stories of their past inform how they fit into the present. So here are various story elements. You have the Awakened. You were odd as a child, displaying unusual capabilities that set you apart from other folk. You are one of the Awakened, a new breed of people born with the innate ability to harness magical energy. Your gift or curse made your life difficult. People fear and distrust you. And so as a result of that, you gain 2 random professions, you discover 1 tradition of magic, and you retain some sort of outward sign of your magical talent that you can't hide. There's a Builder. Whether from books, instruction, or experimentation, you have managed to recover some of the lore of the old world, which helps you assemble useful items from rubbish. You Scrounge. You are usually dirty, covered in grease, and jangling with tools and spare parts. But you have a keen mind and a deft hand when it comes to putting parts together in interesting ways. So that grants you some professions, including 1 profession from the wisdom table and 1 from the random profession. You also get a knack for tools. You make challenge rolls to create items with 1 boon, and then you have tools to start off your game. You could be deluded. A rash of new religions appear following the cataclysm. Dismayed by the false promises in their holy books, people invented their own faiths. Some new interpretations of the old, others invented from whole cloth. You follow one of these new religions and are called deluded because you cling to your faith in the face of indifference of the cosmos. So for professions, you gain 1 profession from the fanatic table and 1 random profession. Strong beliefs. When you would make a challenge roll, you choose to make that roll with 3 boons. Once you do so, you cannot use this talent again until you complete a rest. And then righteous. Your faith guides you through the world, a world of unrest and uncertainty. After you complete a rest, you must spend 1 hour in prayer. Until you do so, you are impaired. You could be a freak. You could be a genius, you could be a parasite, you could be a psycho, savage, scavenger, or wanderer. So lots of different story elements that you can include with your character, and I believe you have to choose one as part of your character development. Then you choose your ancestry. So ancestry starts off with humans. Humans populate our normal world, so obviously it starts there. Then it branches off. It can be explained away. The various new ancestries can be explained away as mutations derived from the cataclysm or as a result of the Shadow of the Demon Lord falling upon the world and the infusion of magic into our unmagical reality. So you start off with humans. You also have changeling, and you have a dwarf, you have goblins, orcs, and transcendent, which is another way of saying a clockwork person, so it's an artificial person. And then there are other ancestries that are listed here, such as mutants, aliens, or creatures, other dimensional creatures. So all of these are options that you can choose as your ancestry for this game. Most of them are familiar from the Shadow of the Demon Lord game, and everything has been changed up, of course, to fit the current setting as far as background information, things like that. But you'll find all of this very familiar. All right, so moving on. Professions. There's a section on professions here. You can be a fanatic, you can be a wisdom, you can be a killer, you can be a savage, scumbag, wretched. Then we get into equipment. You have your starting gear and your interesting things. Various tables for that. And then, and of course, this is equipment for your initial character development. The general equipment tables is later in the book, which we'll get to here shortly. Then you have your paths. So it starts off with novice paths. You have your magician, you have your priest, you have your rogue, and you have your warrior. So those are all from Shadow of the Demon Lord. However, this is, of course, modified for this new environment. In fact, you have an option for magician. You have an optional talent of spell power. So you can choose the spell power talent at level 1 in place of the cantrip talent. Now, the cantrip talent is what you would normally get in Shadow of the Demon Lord at first level for a magician, but this is an option that you can swap that out for. The spell power is that when you cast an attack spell, you make the attack roll with 1 boon and you impose 1 bane on the challenge rolls made to resist a spell. So you're basically trading out an extra cantrip or an extra 0 level spell in order to gain a boon in casting an attack spell, which I think is a pretty good fair trade-off. Although some people want more quantities of spells rather than more potent spells. For those who want more potent spells, this would be the optional talent to take. All right, so the priest, priest path, the priest path is again very similar to what you find in the core Shadow of the Demon Lord book, although it is modified for the current or the new setting. And so instead of the gods of the of Earth and rule, you have the gods of the post-apocalyptic Earth, EARTH. Is that right? Yeah. And you get religions such as Heaven's Ladder and Knights of the Morning Lord and the New Sun, the Risen, Scientists, the Spider God, the Touched. What are the Touched? The Touched see their God in the coming of darkness and revel in the chaos and upheaval in their eternal that their eternal master brings. They are wild, violent, and utterly in the demon lord's thrall. Their minds shattered by the perfect knowledge that they have been given by their Redeemer. So the Touched are the ones that actually are crazy enough to follow the demon lord. Transcended. The religion of the transcendence professes that immortality comes through securing consciousness inside machines. So this would be like a replacement for the followers of the cog god or the machine god in Shadow of the Demon Lord. So yeah, new religions, exciting stuff. Then you've got the rogue. The rogue's fairly pretty much comparable to what you have in Shadow of the Demon Lord. And then you have the warrior, and again, not a whole lot of changes to the warrior. For the novice paths, that is the conclusion. Then we go on to expert paths. Then, as with Shadow of the Demon Lord, you have a few of these to choose from. You have Grease Monkey. You've got a Preacher. You've got a Raider. You've got a Road Warrior, as I mentioned earlier. And so basically you have, it looks like you have an expert path that allows you to advance from your novice path into one of these, although I'm not really sure how a magician would fit into any of these. Maybe as a road warrior? Not really sure. But at any rate, you have your expert paths. And then we move into master paths. So for master paths, you've got Bone Picker, Daredevil, you have a Gunslinger, and this is a variant, I believe that refers to the variant being that there is a gunslinger in the Shadow of the Demon Lord. So this obviously diverges from that one. Then you have a Pyromaniac. And incidentally, these are paths that are specific to the setting, but the Shadow of the Demon Lord paths are still valid. So although I'm not seeing an expert path here that a magician could easily or logically move into if they want to continue down the magic path, a magician can still take an expert path from the Shadow of the Demon Lord. So you could go from magician to wizard or magician to sorcerer, just like you can in Shadow of the Demon Lord. You can still use those. In other words, this game works in conjunction with the Shadow of the Demon Lord book. So everything that's in here is still usable in this game. Some of the things in this game replace some of the things in this book, but everything in this book is still usable in this game. So I want to make that clear. I don't think I made that clear earlier, and in fact I may have confused the matter. So I wanted to make sure that you understand the core rule book for Shadow of the Demon Lord still works with this game. All right. So we get into magic. So it talks about what's the source of magic? How is magic different in this setting than it is, say, in Rule? So it can talk about it talks about how it can come from alien lore, it can come from an artifact, it could be actually mad science that looks like magic but it's actually mad science. It can come from mutation, or it can come from a patron being, or if it were me, I would just say it's just magic. Magic just started working all of a sudden, and it's a result of the Shadow of the Demon Lord falling upon the world and unlocking or causing physics to really change dramatically, or become malleable with the proper incantations or the proper mental alignment with one's environment. If you even want to explain it at all, I mean, there's no computers, there's no way to analyze this shit in the future, so you could just drop your mic and say, there's magic, people, deal with it. All right, so then you have some new spells. So you've got okay. Why is this freezing up? Okay, sorry. Don't know if this froze up much. I'm going to have to look at the video afterwards to make sure that we have a good stream. But okay, it looks like we're running again. All right. Anyway, we still have traditions, because this is still Shadow of the Demon Lord. So we have the alchemy tradition, but these are new spells. So we have the alchemy tradition with process fuel. We have alteration with tolerate radiation, convert salvage. Arcana, divination, forbidden. All the different traditions are in here, and these spells again work in conjunction with all the spells that are in the core rulebook. So moving on, let's just skip a little bit, brother, and move on to chapter 2. So chapter 2 talks about gear. So just like Shadow of the Demon Lord, you got an equipment list, but you also have what's referred to as salvage. So gold is a standard in the post-apocalyptic world. So gold is still a valuable item, and is still used as currency. But then you have salvage. Now, salvage basically is just like it suggests. You find things from the old civilization that may still have some use. And that's what salvage is. Finding old shit, finding rations, finding water. Salvage can include all of those things. And some important things that you might find would be, for example, batteries, electrical parts, food, fuel, mechanical parts, medicine, water. These are all the types of things that you would find. So this is kind of like another category of loot in addition to your standard gold, weapons, and equipment. Now, as far as weapons go, we have all of the usual Shadow of the Demon Lord properties. Let's see if there is anything new in here that I want to mention. Not seeing anything. Maybe capacity. The weapon can hold up to the listed number of rounds in a cylinder or magazine. So that would be new. And everything else is, I think, already in the core rulebook. So you've got weapons tables here, and of course you've got some more modern weapons like a machine gun, grenade launcher, machine pistol, revolver, rifle, shotgun, submachine gun. So fun stuff there. Weapon descriptions listed over here for the new stuff. You got a katana, that's new. So cool equipment as far as weapons go. Then you have special weapons listed on page 32. Some weapon accessories. Then you've got explosives. Yeah, baby. You got grenades, dynamite, Molotov cocktail, suicide vests. Then we've got clothing and armor. So same categories of armor, light, medium, and heavy. They have requirements as well. And then you got defense, and the armor table, that's familiar. Some descriptions. Then you've got new gear. So this would be things inclusive of binoculars, bolt cutters, camcorders, cameras, climbing gear, cigarettes, and so on. Then we have a section on drugs. That's important. We have lots of vehicles, and of course these are modern vehicles. So you got an armored truck, an ATV, box truck, buggy, bus or a camper, compact auto, dirt bike, helicopter, all sorts of modern vehicles. And the vehicle rules are included here. Now this is interesting because there's not a whole lot of, if any, vehicle rules in the core Shadow of the Demon Lord book. Those were relegated to the Demon Lord's Companion book, but they are included here in the Godless supplement for these vehicles that are introduced. And then we have vehicle weapons. So moving past chapter 2 into chapter 3, we've got new rules. And we have rules for creating items. So since you can salvage things and you got tools and there's some technology involved here, not to mention some paths that involve creating things, we have rules for creation. So that is introduced here. We have rules for special attacks, double tap, of course, if you are familiar with Zombieland. Rule number, what rule is it? Rule number 3? I forget. Double tap is in there. It's up there, though. Everybody knows rule number 1 is cardio. All right, so we have burst fire. We have full auto for those weapons that have those types of abilities. We have rules for operating vehicles. Vehicle movement, acceleration, deceleration, speed and handling, facing. We have rules for difficult terrain. We have off-road rules, maneuvers, all kinds of vehicle types of rules and such. We have a sidebar here for chasing and attacking vehicles, exiting moving vehicles. So everything that you could think of for a Road Warrior type of game, I think is included in this book. Should make you happy. So moving on past that, we go into a little bit more depth for the campaign setting. So we talk about the world of blood and fire, and here's an awesome picture of I'm not sure what city this is. Could be New York. But we've got a bunch of demons flying around, so that's awesome. So it talks about the things that I mentioned earlier, the cataclysm, but it doesn't tell you what the cataclysm was. It leaves that up to the DM to decide what type of cataclysm you want to kick off your campaign. So it could be nuclear war, could be a natural disaster, could be a pandemic, could be an invasion from aliens, could be mad scientist. Created, AI or, some sort of super science that devastated the world. I guess kind of like they did in The Matrix. Or it could be supernatural events. So you decide what your cataclysm is. Then it goes into talking about the actual world itself and the various parts of the setting, which is, of course, North America here. And it talks about the drowned lands, which are the areas that have been flooded. It talks about the lost lands. And the lost lands are basically the uninhabitable places that have, radiation or other bad elements to it. Wastes are places that are not uninhabitable but are still not pleasant places to live. And then you got the greenlands, these pockets of inhabitable places where the majority of civilization has congregated, and only the mutants and the crazies and the hardcore people live out in the wastes. All right. So, and void stains are mentioned here as well because, of course, with the Shadow of the Demon Lord, you also bring the void stains. So that's described here. Talks a little bit about hidden kingdoms. So you can include hidden kingdoms or not. Underworld and Hell, once again, you can include or not. Talks about that and how you could include it if you wish, or if you want to omit it, that's fine as well. It talks about the concept of there being no afterlife. You can include that as part of the conceit, or you can say, yeah, there is an afterlife, and therefore you would have a way of resurrecting things. Then talks about different ruins, structures, rules for structural integrity and mishaps. You got road conditions, and you have the different types of settlements that you might have in your campaign, and building a settlement with these various tables. All right, then we get into adventures. So as with the Shadow of the Demon Lord, you start off with a starting adventure. And then from there, you go to the novice adventure and your expert adventure and your master adventure. All of these follow the same pattern as the Shadow of the Demon Lord. However, of course, they are the recommendations that are listed here are based on this setting, not the other setting. So it talks about rewards, which I already mentioned. You can have relics. You can have a boomstick if you're a what's the name of that movie? Army of Darkness fan. You got your boomstick. It talks about computers. Not really a thing. Can be if you can find a battery or a power source, but the internet's not really a thing. It can be if you want to have some AI still running it underground somewhere on some nuclear power source or something like that. So the net may still be out there, but probably corrupted and probably managed by some hostile AIs. Road beast, savage boomerang, different concepts for different adventures. Then it talks about the denizens of Fire and Blood. So you got your bestiary here. And a lot of it seems familiar. You have your beastmen, and you have some new stuff. You got steel skeletons, which are basically undead people that were in suits of armor or body armor that happen to die, and they're still wearing their armor and still holding their weapons. Of course, you have demons, fairies and devils, giants, ogres and trolls, and harvesters. I love it that harvesters are still here. Flesh stealers. monster oozes. So all the monsters that are in the Shadow of the Demon Lord still work in this game. This is just adding some nuances to them and a few new monsters. An Inheritor's new monster. You got the Unseen. You got which are like some sort of spirit creature. Awakened. Bikers. Feral. Ganger. Mutants, survivors, and then we reach the end of the book. So it's not a big book at all. It's only 69 pages of content, and you've got a couple pages of index. So all of that, it packs a ton of information in here, but of course it's incomplete because you still need the Shadow of the Demon Lord core book to fill in the gaps that this supplement does not provide, such as how do you go from a novice magician to an expert path, because this clearly doesn't have a magic related expert path. So you'll want the core book for that. But, again, these work together, not separate. All right, so that is the main rule book for Godless. Now, there are also 3 adventures that have been produced, a starting adventure and 2 novice adventures. So the starting adventure is called In a Pig's Eye. And this tells the tale of how your characters became adventurers. And it starts you off in essentially an underground setting where you've been captured, and a creature that is known as Hog, which is the flesh-eating goblin, is getting ready to torture you, but then something happens and offers an opportunity for your characters to escape. And from that point on, they're basically trying to get out of this underground setting. So it's a pretty simple scenario. It's not a very long adventure. You could probably get it done in a session. And that's good because you don't want to spend a whole lot of time messing around the starting tier when you can jump on into the novice tier and start getting into some novice paths. So there are 2, like I mentioned, and they're not really, it doesn't really say which one you should run first, although I would recommend Last One Standing, because basically it takes the story from after your escape from the underworld, the Hog's underground sanctum, into one of the settlements, and this settlement is known as Isolon. So it gives you the setting, the details of the setting of Isolon, and basically provides you a home base. Now, Isolon is a settlement that is kind of being torn apart by 3 different factions. 3 different gangs are trying to rule or to gain control of Isolon. And so this adventure is your characters trying to rid Isolon of these 3 gangs, essentially. So it's got a lot of NPCs to help guide your adventurers, and then it goes into, well, you got your map here of Isolon, and then it goes into the various, well, you got the Cult of Reawakening. So it wouldn't be Shadow of the Demon Lord if you didn't have a cult, right? So then you've got descriptions of the various, well, there's some jobs that you can take, of course. I'm trying to get to the part that has the gangs, and I think I may have missed them. Yeah, here they are. All right, the gangs. Yeah, I totally missed it. So there are three gangs. The Scrappers. And it talks about their headquarters, how you interact with them, and the various characters that you would encounter. The Merchant Cartel. Same type of information provided. And then you have the Cult of the Reawakening, which is the third gang. So this adventure is essentially you working to rid Isolon of these three gangs. Now, that could take some time. So this novice adventure could be spread out over several sessions as you try to take out each one of these gangs. In fact, I'm thinking you got your introductory session, then you got tackling the first gang, tackling the second gang, you're probably looking at least 4 sessions just to do the first novice adventure. Then you have the second novice adventure, which is called Dancing in the Ruins, and this talks about a ship known as the Grand Fleet of the Party King that kind of comes into town every so many years and recruits people to join the party barge. And there's something weird about it. Your characters go in to investigate, or perhaps they go to join the party barge, and they find that it's not partying is not all it's cracked up to be on the party barge, or the Grand Fleet of the Party King. So this one is a little bit shorter of an adventure. You could probably get it done in a session or 2. But I think this one is probably a little bit more action oriented than the last one. The last one is a little bit more role play, infiltrate gangs, try to take out the gang leader or break up the gangs. This one is a little bit more straightforward. You go into a boat and you try to figure out what's going on and deal with the issues there. And maybe rescue some people. So that is Dancing in the Ruins, and that is the last adventure that has been produced for Godless. Now, I'm not sure if there have been any third-party products produced for Godless. I don't think there have. At least I don't recall seeing them, and I haven't seen any other formal products produced for Godless. So I think this is it. I think you're talking 4 products, and then you have essentially free reign to create whatever you want to in this campaign setting for Godless. So it's a really interesting game. So my final thoughts on this game is that in and of itself, it is like I said, it's Shadow of the Demon Lord in the real world. After a cataclysm has ruined our civilization. You can play it straight up like that. You can play it straight up like a Road Warrior game. You can play it as a Shadow of the Demon Lord game in the real world. In an apocalyptic setting. You could also take the supplement and rewind it pre-cataclysm, and you could play Shadow of the Demon Lord in like a modern Arcana type setting. So I've mentioned before in my other videos that I dig the Dresden Files books. And I like the whole modern fantasy genre. And you could totally pull that off using the supplement and, of course, the core rulebook. You would have to add some things because, in the modern world, pre-cataclysm, you do have computers. You do have cell phones. You do have social networks. So you would have to figure out rules for that. But, 90% of the work is done with Godless. So you could definitely create your own campaign for that type of modern Arcana type setting. I think it's also referred to as urban Arcana. I'm not sure if it's called anything else, but anyway, you could totally use a supplement like in that regard. And I have always wanted to run that type of game. In fact, I tried to do that using the modern D20 rules that came out back in the early 2000s. There was actually a modern Arcana book that was released, and I ran a session or 2 of that. It was just it was like right at the start of me getting into the Dresden Files, so I was really stoked for the whole genre, and I really wanted to run the game. The modern 20 or the D20 modern books, a bit cumbersome for that. I think this would work much better for a modern Arcana game. May try it someday, not really sure. It's hard enough for me to get a normal Shadow of the Demon Lord game going, as opposed to even a spin-off game like Godless or a spin-off of Godless. Still, if I wanted to do it, I have the tools here to do it. You can definitely mine this supplement to enhance your Shadow of the Demon Lord game, or to create, like I said, your own spin-off. So that's what that's what I would use this book for. And if you have that sort of interest, I would definitely recommend getting this. Or if you have an interest in a Road Warrior type game, or a post-apocalyptic real-world Shadow of the Demon Lord game, Godless is definitely for you. This is a great expansion for Shadow of the Demon Lord, and I'm sorry I didn't read up on it sooner. I think this is a great buy. Again, very affordable. I believe that this supplement was under $20 on Drive-Thru RPG. I actually got it as part of the Kickstarter way back when, but I did go ahead and purchase the print on demand, which cost me a little bit more. I think it was like $27 or something like that, but that's print on demand. So you may be able to get it cheaper on Amazon. But the PDFs for the 3 adventures, all cheap like they are for Shadow of the Demon Lord. I think they're maybe $1 or $2, maybe $3 at the most each. So highly recommend, if for nothing else, for entertaining reading. And you definitely get droves of that in this supplement. So I think that's it. So thank you all once again for watching. As usual, please hit the like button if you enjoy this video. Hit the like button in YouTube, not in Facebook or in the social media platforms that I post this in. I mean, those are great too, but I'm trying to expand viewership in YouTube. So your likes and your comments in YouTube are really what I'm asking for. That's where we get the attention, and people can find my videos much easier if there's interaction with my videos in YouTube, not in the social media platforms that I link to. So if you can give me a like, if you give me a subscribe, even if you give me a dislike, it's still net result is the same. So do that, help me out, and we will grow this community. So with that, I appreciate once again you coming to another one of my videos and sticking it through to the end. Hail to the Demon Lord. I'll catch you next time. How the hell you turn this off?